Okay, so this demo is going to go over how to use the pen tool, the direct select, your selection tool, um, and some of the other tools in correlation with our type tool to create modified text and specifically monograms. So first thing we want to do is we want to create a new file, and you want to create an 8.5 by 11 letter size. Make sure it's in inches, so you can see that right here. And we're just going to hit OK. If you don't already have your pen tool set open like mine is as a tear off, you want to open that up. And how you're going to do that is you're going to click and hold on your pen tool and go over to the tear off and just highlight that, and that'll pull up the pen tool set. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go over to our type tool, and you can see right now how the size of it, and that's controlled up here by our font size. So I'm going to bump that up a little bit, though. When you click, you can kind of see how large it's going to be. So if you want to go back and change it and make it a little bit larger, you can. And we're going to mess with a really basic font. So go ahead and type in up at the top where it says character Arial. Or you can go find it too. That's another way to get to it. Okay. And now what I want you to do is type just your initials. So you could capitalize them, you don't have to, it's really kind of up to you. So once I have it typed, what I'm going to do is go over and I'm going to get my selection tool, my black arrow, and you can see that it's going to give me that bounding box. I'm going to hold down shift, I'm just going to make this a little bit larger. Okay, so I can see it and you guys can see it a little bit easier. But at any given point you can drag over stuff and shrink it down. So once we have this dragged up, we want to create outlines for this, which gives us points all on this. Right now this is just basically one big image. It is vector, so it's never really going to get pixelated, but we want to break it apart so we can work with it. So what you're going to do is you're going to right click on it and you're going to go create outlines. See that right there? And right away you're going to see the difference. You're going to see all those blue points on your outline, on your path. And that's going to allow us to mess with those. Now, you could mess with these right now, but we're going to do one step further than this. And what I'm going to have you do is right click it again and go ungroup. What this does is it separates these. So now these, I'm just using my arrows, my keyboard. These are totally workable on their own type of thing. Or you could drag over them now. You have them both selected. Okay. So from here, what we want to start doing is thinking about how we can combine these letters to make some interesting stuff happen. So what I'm going to do is maybe, all right, I'm going to say, I could have this line up because that's almost the same thickness right there. That could just be a really simple way of doing a monogram. I'd probably want to line this up a little bit better so you don't see like edges popping out, but that could be just a really simple monogram of your initials. You could alter this a little bit more though if you wanted to, and by that I mean you can drag out these points. Now I'm going to go to my direct selection arrow, so my white arrow. What I'm going to do is I'm going to click on one of these top points here, and you can see one's blue, one's white. I'm going to hold down shift and select the other one. So now the top two are selected. That's one way you can do this, or you could just really easily drag over the top portion and then that's selected. Now what I'm able to do is drag that up. And so I'm kind of got a little bit of a different monogram setup here. Say I want to have these intersect. Well, I can do the same thing with the B. I could highlight the 2 points on the end and then drag those over. And that's another way I could have this interact. I could click on the J and I can maybe have it, instead of having an outline or a fill of black, I could have just an outline of black. I could click on that letter and I could mess with, let's see if I can mess with the stroke weight here. Make this thicker line. Right, so a couple different ways you can mess around with this. And it's really up to you how you want to do it, but you're trying to make this kind of look a little bit different visually. So that's really your goal. So I'm going to go back to my white arrow, and I'm going to select these. Shift select those. Oops. Back to my black arrow. And just kind of mess around with, reshaping this and how I can make this kind of line up and look interesting. All right. So if I would like this, I could just kind of save it off to the side. And I'm just going to shift and shrink it down. Just bring it over here. So that will be like one of mine. Okay, I want you to make 5. They're actually just utilizing your initials. So I'm going to make another one here just to kind of start playing around with. And we're going to talk about a couple other tools that you already know about, but things you can do to kind of play around with this. So the other tools that we kind of want to use here, and again, I'm going to go through this step of clicking on this. Make sure you have your text selected. Right-click it, create outlines. Right-click it again, and ungroup. If you do this again and you hit release compound path, I'll show you what's going to happen. You don't want to do that necessarily with every thing. So see how it takes away the middles there? That would be an issue for yours, depending on what you wanted it to look like. For these, I do want you to stay with black and white text. I don't want you going any further than that. But next thing I'm going to do is kind of mess around, and I'm going to actually add some points onto these. So I'm going to go back to my pen tool set. I'm going to get my add anchor point tool. And I'm going to go down, and we're going to add some points on the side here. Oops, clicked on a point there. Alright, so now we add some points there. So what I'm doing here is I'm going to actually connect the J into the B. So I'm going to select those 2 new points that I did. Make sure when you're using the add that you're clicking on the path and not a point. And then the subtract, this one, the delete anchor point tool, make sure you click on points. So now I have these selected. I can actually go and I can pull those 2 out and maybe connect it in as like another option of a way that I could connect these 2. I can also go up and just select 1 point, and I'm just going to use my arrows, and I'm going to move that point down. So now I have this thing kind of a little bit lined up. Right? Maybe say, okay, I want this to have a little bit of space there. I could do that as well. So the arrows are a good way to kind of utilize a tool that is going to alter your image, but do it a little more controlled. So you can also, like I said, you can drag select stuff. Say I just want to pull up the bottom portion here, and then I can also go and I can grab my convert tool. Say like that curve gets a little bit off. I can go and I can just adjust that so it looks a little bit more natural. All right, and it may look weird, but so you have to kind of decide yourself, if you're liking what it looks like. Oops. And that'll pop up if you click on a path and not a point. And if you click on a point, it's going to give you, it's going to kind of take away that curve and reset you. So here's like just another version, something else you can kind of play around with. So what I do want you to do is try and come up with 5 of these monograms. Now these are kind of basic. You can get a little more complicated, get a little bit more creative. You can play around with, again, just different fills, different strokes. You could even mess around maybe with, say like mirroring something. So say we wanted to mirror this curve kind of coming off the B here. I can go and shift select, maybe just pull down a portion. So really anything that's going to kind of create something a little bit more original. And you're just looking to like make it look cool is essentially the goal of this little exercise. So just kind of mess around here. Some of the tools that we've already talked about. All right, there we go. So you can kind of see I'm like starting to drag this out and make it alter it a little bit more. And then again, when I'm done, I drag select it, and I'm just going to hold down shift so nothing gets out of proportion. Now the one thing that you will notice that kind of gets out of proportion is like if there's like thickness issues when it gets smaller. See how like that J kind of got a little bit close? You might want to click and just re-separate that if that's an issue. Or say like this one, like a stroke's too thick, then you can thin it down a little bit. So that's another option and something you can kind of play around with. All right. So I do want you to come up with 5 original monograms, black and white, messing with the pen tool set, basic text, and then our selection arrows. Okay.